Hey everybody, sorry for getting cut off before. I just want to cover the last few concepts here, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the AP test and some things to be aware of with that we haven't already covered, just some general thoughts. So, I was cut off when I was talking about the Premack Principle, which is essentially a concept that if you want someone to do something that they hate, the best way to do it is to provide some sort of incentive that they do like. So if you, like the example here, if you want to borrow the car, that's something you do want to do. So, you might say, you can borrow the car if you clean your room. Cool. So it's something you can use to your advantage to get people to do something they wouldn't want to do otherwise. Okay, another term that deals with conditioning. This is one that's a little bit tough to know how the College Board is going to deal with it because it kind of crosses two units. It's about conditioning, but it's also about therapy a little bit. The term aversive conditioning. Aversive means like painful or harmful. You could actually use harmful conditioning to get the outcome you want. So normally in that sort of case, when you're using aversive conditioning, you are trying to pair something you want to get rid of with something that's horrible. So the classic example here is aversion therapy using smoking. So where you'd like lace the cigarette with something, they would have to sign off on it. Obviously, you can't just do this rampantly to people. But then when they'd smoke, they would get this horrible, nauseating sensation. So it can work. Sometimes it doesn't work. So in class, I think I used the example of like painting bad tasting things on fingernails to make you stop biting your nails. And it can sort of work, but if you know that it's happening, sometimes it doesn't really work in real life. So it's not as effective as it could be. Okay, last couple of slides here. Linguistic relativity. So you might recognize this term, the Whorf-Sapir hypothesis. Sometimes just known as the Whorf hypothesis, same thing. Basically, what linguistic relativity is talking about, or linguistic determinism, is probably, both terms get used by different textbooks. But language determines how you think. So if you speak English, that determines some things about how you think about the future. If you speak in like Spanish, for example, where all words basically are masculine or feminine, that might describe how you think about certain objects. Do you view them as beautiful? Do you view them as strong? They actually have distinctive data about how people view the world with more of a gendered lens if they have a more gendered-based language. So language determines how you think, which is super weird. You don't think about that, but it works. Okay, the last set of terms here I want to talk about, and obviously there's a lot more things we could talk about, but is this term language acquisition device and a guy named Noam Chomsky. With this, we're looking at how does language develop. And in class, we talked a little bit about Noam Chomsky versus B.F. Skinner. B.F. Skinner really thought that everything was operant conditioning. Kids would learn how to talk because they'd be given positive reinforcement whenever they made a word. They'd want to try more words, get more positive reinforcement, or have people understand them, and then they would learn through conditioning. Now, Noam Chomsky disagreed. He said that all humans have an innate language learning ability, or a language acquisition device. This innate, inborn ability to learn language. And he's going to talk about how most people learn language in distinctive steps. And because that happens around the world, people tend to do the same things. It's not just like that kid got reinforced all the time, so they clearly could talk way before everybody else. Since it happens in recognizable steps, he says that it's an inborn human ability. Sometimes it's known as the nativist theory of language acquisition. I think you'd be more likely to see language acquisition device. But if you're talking about acquisition or acquiring language, that's kind of the debate here. Is it all operant conditioning like Skinner? Or is it an innate ability that people have? So there's lots of different terms here. Obviously, there's more that are coming up. If you are confused about anything, or if you want more information about something, please talk to Ms. Helly or myself. One term we were going to mention that I didn't make a slide about is something called the over-justification effect. I just want to throw this out there. It's been a few years since it's been on the AP test. The over-justification effect is this phenomenon that the more that you reward someone for doing something they already like doing, the more you're going to kill their internal motivation to do it, their intrinsic motivation. So if you love to shoot hoops in your driveway, you just love it. You could do it all day. All day in quarantine, all you do is want to play basketball by yourself. Cool. But then if a parent looks at that and says, I'm going to have the next NBA star, I'm going to start paying them to make free throws. They said, I'll give you 10 cents for every free throw you make. You're going to start making free throws like crazy. But the over-justification effect says that you are going to hate playing basketball. You're not going to love to play it for the love of the game anymore. Now you're going to be playing it for money. So that's one term I wanted to throw out because I feel like, sometimes you just have an inkling that it's going to show up. You don't know. Okay. So if you have any questions, make sure to talk to me or Miss Helly.